What's up guys, Andrew Bain here, and on today's video I'm going to be showing you guys the 5 greatest EQ effect moments in music history. But in addition to showing you those moments, I'm also going to be teaching you how to make these tones yourself using an EQ pedal or pretty much any EQ plugin, whether it's digital or analog. It all works just the same. The EQ is probably the least glamorous but most underrated effect in every guitar player's arsenal. Throughout my entire career, I've obviously used EQ. I've never personally used a pedal before, but I went out and got one for this video in particular. But I've always used an EQ, whether I was using, like the old Pod HD Pro or the Kemper or the Neural DSP plugins. There's always an EQ somewhere in that signal path, and it makes a big difference. And in this video, you're gonna find out why. So for this video, I'm using the Boss GE7, which stands for Graphic Equalizer, and 7 because there are 7 bands. However, you can achieve the same effects using any EQ plugin or pedal, so don't worry if you don't have this one in particular. This video is sponsored by Reverb, who just released a movie all about guitar pedals, the history of guitar pedals from their inception up until now, and it is called, you guessed it, The Pedal Movie. Even though I grew up using digital effects and modelers and only recently started using analog gear, I still found this documentary incredibly fascinating. I am a huge sucker for documentaries. I watch them all the time for fun, and it was really cool to learn about the history of these awesome little stomp boxes that you see floating around almost every guitar player's arsenal. So whether you're new to pedals like me, have no knowledge of pedals at all, or are a seasoned veteran and know your gear very well, I truly think that this movie is going to entertain you and you're going to learn something new by watching it. So with that being said, be sure to go check out the link in the pinned comment or the description to check the movie out if this interests you. Also be sure to go check out all the other YouTubers who are going to be making videos like this today. Most of them probably have something a little more glamorous than an EQ pedal. Like I know my friend Agufish is doing wah pedals, for example, so he's probably going to be talking about Kirk Hammett for like 5 minutes. But yeah, go check out all the other YouTubers' videos. And with that being said, let's move on to the 5 greatest moments of EQ effect history. So the first moment in history that I want to talk about, to no one's surprise, is the Djent tone. And to achieve that tone, you want to have a massive mid boost to your guitar. Of course, you can do this with a boost pedal, and I'm sure most Djent players do, but you can do the same thing with an EQ pedal, believe it or not. Or alternatively, if you have a boost pedal that you like, but it does a couple little things here or there that you don't like, you can just correct it with an EQ pedal after it. Like let's say it boosts too much lows, just take the lows right out with that. Super useful, especially if you're using super low tuned guitars, which most Djent players are, whether you're using a 7-string or an 8-string. This is a very useful trick to get that sweet, sweet Djent sound. Here's how it sounds. The next moment in history is the opposite of the Djent tone, which is the scooped mids tone. Dimebag Darrell from Pantera is especially known for doing this. It's essentially kind of the opposite thing we were just talking about with the Djent tone, where you basically want to scoop all your mids out. He did something in particular that was very weird, where he actually boosted the mids going into the amp, and then in the effects loop, he had an EQ pedal that took the mids back out, hence the mid scoop. Now, I know this isn't going to sound exactly like Pantera's guitar tone, so please don't kill me for that, but this is a similar concept to what he did. So again, you're basically boosting the mids and then taking them back out to make your tone more uniform across the board. It's a little strange, but if you're after that 90s guitar tone, this is definitely one of the ways you could help implement that into your guitar rig. This is how it sounds. The next moment in history I want to talk about is the AM guitar tone. So basically this makes your guitar sound like a lo-fi AM radio. This is used in a lot of modern deathcore. I know my band Carcosa uses it a lot. However, it's been around for a very long time. I think Rage Against the Machine is one of the examples of a band who uses this type of tone quite frequently. In terms of more modern music, it's usually used like right before a breakdown or something like that to give your guitars this super nasally, lo-fi sound, so that way when the whole band comes in, it sounds even heavier. This is an example of what that sounds like. The next moment in history I want to talk about is what I like to call the glassy clean tone. This has been made famous by bands such as Periphery and Tesseract and is most commonly used once again in Djent. So the concept here is we basically want to boost the high end of the guitar and get rid of the low end and basically make the guitar sound very chimey and glassy. I know those are kind of buzzwords, but it is true and you'll hear what I mean. So basically you want your guitar to really be piercing and sit above the mix. Again, especially in context of Djent where the guitars are very low tuned, this just helps really sit on top of the mix and on top of the vocals, and it sounds really nice and crisp. This is how it sounds. The final example I want to talk about is a little bit of a weird one, but it is using a bass as a guitar. So as you can see on this effect pedal here, it's kind of ironic because you're going to be using a bass guitar, but you're actually going to be wanting to get rid of almost all the bass and boosting the high end. And the reason for this is while using a bass as a guitar gives you a very different tone, you don't actually want it to interfere with your actual bass guitarist. It's a very weird one, a very weird case that not many bands have done. However, a very notable example is Deftones with their song Needles and Pins. Both their guitarist and their bassist both use a guitar for this song. I'm not quite sure why, but it sounds really cool. And again, I think that the way to make that work in context of a mix is to get rid of the bass on the guitar slash lead bass, I guess you would call it, so that the actual bassist still has room to sit in your mix. With that being said, this is how bass as a guitar sounds. Okay, so there you have it. That was the 5 most iconic moments in EQ effect pedal history. Let me know in the comments if there were any that I missed. Again, as I was saying in the beginning, this effect is a little hard to pinpoint because it is usually a subtle thing that's used in conjunction with other effects, but hopefully I picked 5 of the most iconic moments, and hopefully for those of you out there who have been wondering how to make tones like this video helps you. Of course, I want to give another massive thank you to the sponsor of this video, Reverb. Be sure to go check out the pedal movie. That's going to be linked in the pinned comment and in the description below. And last but not least, I of course want to give my Patreon members a big thank you as well. Their names are on screen at this point in time, and if you guys are ever interested in getting a shout out, audio downloads, guitar tabs, stems, you can find all of that over on my Patreon page. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Be sure to go check out all the other YouTubers who are making videos like this today. I look forward to reading your comments, and I'll see you next time.